Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your guy Rudy SKC, and welcome to a brand new video. As you guys can tell, I'm not happy right now. Michigan basketball in Chrysler today. We lost to Illinois, a team that we just cannot seem to beat over the last few years. They have our number, man. I don't know what to tell you guys. This is 9 straight that the Illini have over the Wolverines, and today it wasn't even close, especially in the second half. When Illinois started to pull away. But there's so much to talk about here. The first storyline is that this is obviously senior night. So you have all the seniors coming out, right? You have, Vlad Golden's parents coming in from Russia. They haven't seen him in 5 years, and they come just for this game. And it's, you always hate to lose on senior night, especially when you're a team that's been, for the better part of this entire, this is their second loss at home, ladies and gentlemen. This is their second loss at home, and it happens to be on senior night, it's unfortunate. It's like one of the few games in the year, especially regular season game outside of your rivalry games and everything, and maybe like any games for positioning. Senior night, it's a game that you want to win. So it sucks that they came out and it was like there was a lack of effort. Let's if we're being nice, if we want to put it nice, there was a lack of effort, and we're going to talk about that in the video. A part of that is due to the fact that this is their 4th game in 10 days. Which is an insane schedule, especially for college basketball, the logistics of managing that. So there was some element of tiredness in it, but you can never blame the schedule as a team, right? It comes down to what you're doing. And we talk about this frequently on this channel. In the modern age of basketball, what are the 3 things that you need to do in order to win a game for sure, 100%? Number 1, win the rebounding battle. Number 2, win the 3-point battle. Number 3, win the turnover battle. Can you guys guess how many of these statistics that the Michigan Wolverine basketball team ended up winning in today? 0. They didn't win in any of them. And that's a huge problem, right? That's a huge problem. We talk about when these are things in the modern age of basketball that you need to do in order to win games, and you don't, and you lose in all of them. That's almost a guaranteed loss, like 95% of the time, at least from what I've observed. That's my formula. And so let's take a look at it, right? Rebounding battle, 43-32. You let them get 11 more rebounds. And this is where, in my opinion, was the biggest difference in the game. And it's the fact that you let them get 19 offensive rebounds and you only got 12. So you let them essentially get 7 extra possessions on the offensive glass. And that absolutely cannot happen. When you have the size that you do, when you have, Vlad Golden, Danny Wolf, and Will Shetter. And all of them are 7 foot tall. And you have athletic wings that can go and crash the glass too. And this is not something that we've seen just this game. It's something that we've seen throughout the year. Michigan has not been one of the better rebounding teams, and it just does not make sense to me, right? And that's something that Dusty May has to figure out on how to, coach these guys to get up there on the offensive glass, box out from the 3-point line. There are way too many times in the game today that you saw 3-point shooters from Illinois come down, crash the glass, and pull the rebounds out. I understand you're tired, but that lack of effort just cannot happen, especially in this stage of the year, right? So that's, again, one thing. 7 extra offensive possessions, that's tough. And the second piece is this 3-point shooting, okay? Let's look at this. You shot the ball 4 of 18 from 3-point range for 22%. They shot 14 for 37, 38% from the 3-point line. 4 threes versus 14 threes. I mean, that is an insane amount of points. That you lost on the 3-point line by 30 points. You lost by 30 points there. I mean, that's obviously, you're not going to win. You're in the modern NBA, you are not winning games and losing 30 points at the 3-point line. That's just not how it works, unfortunately. And that's what the Wolverines ended up. And in my opinion, yeah, you can have off shooting nights, but I don't like the attempt. You see that they almost took double the amount of threes that we ended up taking. And just from a strictly analytic standpoint, that cannot happen. You can't let yourself get outshot in terms of opportunities. Part of that's due to offensive rebounds. You let them get, so many extra possessions, right? 11 extra possessions on rebounds compared to you guys, right? So that's one thing that counts towards the 3-point battle on why they're able to get, more attempts than you. But the other piece of it is that the way you were swinging the ball, the actions that you were running, there was too much one-on-one going on. And again, that's something we'll touch on a little later in the video as well. But that cannot happen. There needs to be some level of ball movement. And, I understand games like this happen as stinkers. but it's late in the season, guys. I mean, this is the beauty of college basketball is you can be the greatest team of all time. You can be Duke in that, was it 2018 when they had Zion, when they had RJ Barrett, when they had Cam Reddish, and you can go deep in the tournament. But if you have one off game at this time of the year, it's donezo for you. You're done. You're out. You're knocked out. And then thankfully, this is not a winner go home type of game. But that's the type of environment that the Wolverines are pushing to put themselves into. So this type of effort, it cannot happen. You cannot let yourself get outshot at the 3-point line as much as they did. If you went there, it was an off game, you missed so many threes, that's fine. I don't like to see that they had double the amount of attempts that you did. That's just me. The turnover battle, in my opinion, yes, you lost it, and you gave them 2 extra possessions, right? So with rebounding and that's what, 13 extra possessions. But it was 11-9. Okay, it was 11-9, and let's be honest, like a lot of the turnovers were dead ball turnovers that we saw in the game too. 11 is an okay amount of like obviously you hate to see turnovers, but in college basketball, 11 turnovers, it's an okay amount. It's an okay amount. And if you want to put some kind of silver lining on it, Michigan, I think this year they're 343rd. Out of, I believe, 364 NCAA teams in terms of turnovers per game. That's pretty awful. And they've been averaging 14.4 turnovers a game. If you just take a look at the last 5 games, the number is down to 13.2. So, you might say that's only 1 turnover per game. I call it improvement. So that's one thing that, if anything went wrong in the game, that's a little bit of a silver lining that we've seen over the last few games, right? Because when I had Arav on the channel a couple weeks ago talking about Michigan after, or win against Purdue, one thing that he talked about was, there's no clear path to reducing the amount of turnovers if you don't fundamentally change something. And maybe they're figuring something out. Maybe. I don't know, but they potentially are. I think a lot of it is that, down the stretch, in our pick and roll situation, we're going to that a lot less, which I don't know why. I don't know why that's happening. The Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden pick and rolls. We'll talk about that a little bit too as to why that may be the case, but you need to get back into running those kind of actions. Yes, it did cause you to have more turnovers in earlier games, but it also puts you in better offensive positioning. Like, you see these last few games are the amount of points per game. We had a game, like a couple games, I think it was Nebraska, right? Where we had the lowest points in a game scored in the last decade for Michigan. So there are concerns there. There are slight concerns there in terms of what you're able to do in terms of the offensive side of the ball. And obviously I'm not advocating for turning the ball over, but I'm saying that if there's a correlation between lower turnovers and worse offense, and better offense, I'm taking the better offense 11 out of 10 times. I'm sorry. I'm taking the better offense 11 out of 10 times. So just something for Michigan to consider. But again, you cannot lose those 3 facets of the game and, win games against, relative Illinois is a good team now. Let's not get that mistaken. Illinois is a heck of a good team. But you cannot win games against good teams in a modern age of basketball by losing in all those 3 categories. And that's what Michigan did. Going on to individual performances, the first guy you got to talk about is Vlad Golden, right? Senior night, he comes out, he had a solid performance, 22.7 rebounds. I think one of the biggest success points that Michigan has had over the last 5 to 6 games is the fact that Vlad has shown that, hey, throw the ball to me at least 70-80% of the time. I guarantee you, if I'm going one-on-one with the other team's big man, it's going to end up in a bucket. And that's been good. It's been a good source of offense for Michigan, especially when they get down, when the other team goes on runs and they get down in games. We've seen Dusty May go and turn his vision towards and turn his plays towards, hey, Vlad, we're going to get you the ball in the post and you're going to do some work for us. That's what Dusty's shown us over the last few games, and it's been effective. So shout out to Vlad there. He really shows out, and it's been consistent, right? We're going to get to another player who has not been as consistent, and it's really hurting the team. But Vlad, he is, for after the first month of the season, I'd say he's been extremely consistent. Now, one thing I would like to say is I cannot stand the 7 rebounds. That's not something you want to see out of your center. Yes, I would like my shooting guards and small forwards and wings to crash and to block out the block out at the 3-point line a little bit more, I definitely think that will help. But if you're the top, Lad is 7'1", guys. I mean, he's the size of Area 51 for real. When you're 7'1", like, there has to be a little bit more urgency in terms of getting rebounds. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that, but I'm not going to crucify the guy for the way he played, because, I mean, he's been your main constant source of offense that you've seen over the last couple games. So shout out to Vlad there. I'm not like criticizing him at all. I'm just saying I would like to see him elevate that rebound count a little bit more, especially on nights where, you know, your other players are having off nights and most of your other stars are not playing well. So something I would like to see a little bit more from Vlad. It's just going to elevate not only his game, but also the ceiling of this team, when you know that there are certain games, like you talked about the UCLA game. That was a game where Vlad just took it over, right? The first half, you saw him defense, offense, rebounding the ball, blocking shots, getting post touches. I mean, he was dominating. If he's able, when other players are not having their great games, if he's able to elevate to that standard, that's going to be the key as to whether Michigan can win these type of games when it looks like they're just exhausted on the court. So that's one thing to note about Vlad. Now, I mentioned a player earlier that we need to be more consistent, and that is Danny Wolf. Danny Wolf is clear-cut by far the best player on this Michigan basketball team. I mean, he's going to be a first-round pick in the NBA draft this year. With that being said, we need him to be more consistent. We need him to, at least hit that 12-point threshold on a game-in and game-out basis. He needs to do a better, like today, 5 turnovers, 9 points. That's not, or I don't even know if it was 9 points. It might have been 7. That is not a good brand of basketball for him to play. Especially when you're 7 foot tall, you do the amount of handling Danny does. I understand turnovers are going to happen, right? That's also one of the reasons Michigan is pretty high in turnovers, right? One of our main ball handlers is 7 foot. Naturally, when you have a guy that's tall, the ball is bouncing a little taller. It's just basic basketball, right? It's a little easier for defenders to get swipes in. That's fair, right? Something he can work on, but that's fair. But when it comes to 5 turnovers, that's an egregious amount of mistakes to make. I mean, that's almost 50% of the team's overall turnovers. And then obviously he hasn't been. There's some games where you could just tell he's not doing he's not being as aggressive driving to the rim. I mean, the best thing about Danny Wolf is his ability to have touch around the rim. I mean, the angles that the guy is able to find is unbelievable. But there's some games where you could see there's just a switch that turns off. And if you guys remember, actually a few years ago, this is a problem that we used to have with Franz Wagner. Because there'd occasionally be some games where, you could just tell that the switch was off with Franz for some reason, right? And I feel like Danny, in some games, he's having that. And, maybe Michigan didn't need it when they had Franz because they had, other players. They played within the flow of the offense a little bit. Or like maybe during Juwan's first couple years as well, they had those, off-screen roles and everything like that. And that was working to perfection. It was new. Other teams didn't expect it. They didn't know how to defend it yet as well. So that was working. So they had something else going. But the Michigan offense this year is way too dependent on Danny Wolf for him to have bad games, right? If Michigan wants to get far in the tournament, they need Danny Wolf to be a consistent source of offense on a night in and night out basis. And we also need to see a little bit more defensive effort from him. Like I said, same thing with Vlad, right? You're 7 foot tall. You need to be doing a better job rebounding. The amount of rebounds today that I saw to guys that were 6'5" or smaller on Illinois was just alarming. It was genuinely just alarming. So Vlad and Danny, they need to do, a little bit better of a job rebounding. And I definitely think when you have your guards crashing a glass a little bit better, boxing out at the 3-point line, that's going to help your big men, right? So from that standpoint, obviously, Danny and Vlad, this is not, criticism on them alone. This is something for the entire team. Rebounding is a team game. You look at the Golden State Warriors in the NBA. For the last 7-8 years, they've been among the leaders in the NBA in terms of rebounds per game. And their tallest player for a majority of those seasons has been a 6'6", 6'7" maybe, Draymond Green, or maybe a 6'8" Kevon Looney. Size does not matter as much as hustle, as much as heart when it comes to rebounding. So that's just something Michigan has to figure out, and I'm sure the rest is definitely going to help them. Obviously, you have like a grueling schedule that continues until the end of, the end of Big Ten play, the end of the regular season, until the Big Ten championship tournament. So they're just going to Wow. My bad on that, guys. Sorry, I just completely destroyed my setup. That was total accident. But yeah, I'll edit that out of the video. Okay, don't worry. But yeah, anyway, so what were we talking about? Yeah, we are just talking about Michigan needing to, have more effort on the rebounding side if they want to be successful in these type of games, right? Because that's one of the things that's preventing you from, being able to blow other teams out, getting other teams opportunities. I mean, I think, King of the Fourth Quarter, if you guys know who he did like a simulation where he was like, can the worst rebounding team in NBA history win an NBA championship? And they basically lost every single game. I know it's 2K, I know it's a simulation, but there's an importance to rebounding, okay? So that's just something that we need to get better at as a team. Danny Wolf, I would like to see a little bit more consistency from him. And then, same thing with Vlad on the rebounding side of the ball. He's been a great source of offense. And then one thing I wanted to mention in terms of their pick and roll, I know I talked about it earlier in the video. I feel like teams are starting to figure out the pick and roll. You can see the extra hedging that they do on Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden pick and rolls, and even when it's Will Cheddar. You can see that the hedging that the other team does on Danny Wolf as a ball handler. And I think that whether it's Nimari Burnett, Roddy Gale, Reuben Jones, they need to do a better job off-ball cutting, because what you're seeing is happening is when that pick and roll finishes, it feels like Michigan does not, when that pick and roll is stopped, it feels like Michigan doesn't have a second option from there, right? Because what happens then? You kick the ball out to Trey Donaldson, you kick the ball out to Nimari, maybe he's open for three, maybe not. If you're not able to get enough penetration until they hedge, he's not going to be open. The other team does a good job of rotations. You're not generating any kind of offense there. There's no like secondary play that you could consistently see Michigan being able to turn to that's well. And then it's just turning into one-on-one basketball. And there's too many situations in this game where that's happening. And in college basketball, you don't win with one-on-one basketball, right? The NBA is a completely different game than college. But you can't win with one-on-one basketball in college. You can win games, but you can't win championships with consistent one-on-one basketball, right? And that's something that we've seen Michigan turn to a little bit more frequently, and that's why I'm saying it's a little alarming that they're going away from what's been one of their biggest weapons throughout the entire year in that Area 51 pick and roll. So hopefully they figure out some kind of option. I genuinely think it'll help if Nimari, Roddy Gale, and Reuben Jones, if they're doing a better job cutting towards the rim, opening up some driving opportunities for Danny Wolf to find them in with. But you saw it earlier in the year a little bit, but we want to see a little bit more of that. But in late games, when you have LJ Cation getting ISOs, that is not a good idea. And I love LJ Cation. He's done a great job for Michigan as a freshman this year. But when you're getting him into those one-on-one ISO opportunities just to manufacture offense, generally not a good thing for your team. So that's another thing. Another individual performer who needs to be a little bit more consistent, Trey Donaldson. I would say this even to a greater extent than Danny Wolf. We have to get Trey Donaldson going. And this is a matter of immediate concern, because Danny, he has some games where he's just completely, on fire, right? And it happens pretty frequently enough, and that's why he's highly touted as a first-round pick. Trey Donaldson, I have the box score pulled up, okay? These are his points from his last 5 games. 9, 5, 11, 3, and 8. 9, 5, 11, 3, and 8. Now, I'm not reading a phone number. That is his box score stats from the last 5 games. Now, if you take a look at the games before that, right? 12, 18, 12, 10, 21, 11, and 10. So you can see 14 before that. So you can see he was pretty much in double digits until the last 5 games. He was in double digits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 consecutive games. And these last 5 games have not been good. You can see he's not done a great job controlling the offense, controlling the pace. One thing you loved about Trey Donaldson earlier in the year was the way he was able to control the pace of the game, right? It looked like whether you were running in transition, Trey Donaldson, he was able to orchestrate that beautifully. Even in the half-court offense, right? Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden was actually your secondary backup plan on most cases, because you had Trey Donaldson to rely on to run that pick and roll or to set up your offense. And I think he was doing a much better job of that earlier in the year. So he's someone that Michigan really has to get going if they want to be successful, right? That's something that you can't, he's one of your transfers from Auburn, right? He's one of your best players on the team. He's one of your captains. So you really need him to play better, because what's been happening the last few games, it's not sustainable for an NCAA tournament. So that's a bit on the individual players. And just looking at this team as a whole, I know when I had Arav on the channel a couple weeks back, right after the review, I think that one thing we talked about is, as an objective college basketball fan, right? We can't say with confidence that Michigan can make a deep run playing the way that they are. And that's just the truth of it, right? I'm if you're being an objective college basketball fan, you can't say with certainty that Michigan has the ability to make a long run in March, right? In some of the old Beeline teams, there was an aura around the team. And I don't know quite how to quantify that. I don't know how quite to explain that. But remember, like, it was maybe, I can't tell if it was 2016, 2017. Michigan, they had the whole plane skidding off the runway incident. And then they played Illinois, their practice jerseys in the Big Ten tournament. And then they had this huge, this huge win streak. And eventually they got it. This was on the Derek Walton shot against Oregon in the Sweet 16. And eventually that's how they ended up losing. But even in that, you saw that they were able to do things on the offensive side, and it started on the defensive side of the ball, right? Beeline teams always had a great offense. They had great shooters. There was something that they were able to do on the defensive side of the floor that, in college basketball, it's just, it emanates an aura. Okay, it emanates an aura that you can say, wow. I mean, that's just what just happened here, right? It's the beauty of college sports, right? There's a such thing as a momentum. Momentum defines college sports, whether it's football or basketball. And if you're able to just figure out how you can control that, then your team is in a lot better position. And I think that you've seen one thing. Beeline used to love that 1-3-1 zone, and we tried it earlier in the year, but we've been rocking a lot more with the 2-3 zone this year. And I think that it's opened up a lot more lanes for shooters on the other team. And in most cases this year, when shooters are off, you can see that Michigan makes runs. But when the other team's shooting is back on, right, when they're making shots, that's when other teams make runs. And that's why you see Michigan having so many leads, blowing so many leads, turning so many blowouts into close games, or even in certain cases, turning many blowouts from the other team into close games for them. So it goes both ways. But that's because a lot of times you're allowing the other team to shoot their way back into the game. And I don't know if that's a great strategy on the defensive side of the ball, because like I mentioned earlier, this aura, this mythical aura I'm talking about in college basketball, it's just momentum from defensive stops. And it's your ability to do that defines how far you really think you can get in March, right? So that's one thing that you need to do better. I'm going to also say you need your best player to be more consistent in Danny Wolf. And then you need to stop losing the big three, because even against Purdue, when you somehow won the game a couple weeks back, you still lost in all the three categories. Now, they were much slighter than they were today. You lost in all those three categories, and let's be honest, you got a little help by the refs with the such a huge disparity in free throw attempts. That doesn't normally happen. So you need to stop losing, and at least you need to dominate in one of these three areas. And for Michigan this year so far, it's been at the 3-point line. You've been doing a great job getting these open shots. You have these shooters with Nimari Burnett shooting 40%, Trey Donaldson being close to 40%, Danny Wolf, who had been shooting better from three, but has trailed off a little bit. Vlad Golden, the ability to shoot, right? You have all these guys. Obviously, Justin Pippen with his ability to shoot. So you have all these guys, their ability to shoot, and that's been the one thing you've been dominating in. But when in games where, it turns out today where you don't even get as many shot attempts to get back into the game, that's going to harm you. So you need to figure out a way to at least win 2 out of the big 3, figure out a way to do it consistently. And then going forward, you have 2 huge games against Maryland and MSU, 2 ranked teams. The MSU game potentially for the Big Ten championship, depending on how you play against Maryland. MSU, they just beat Wisconsin, a ranked team. So again, normally I wouldn't be too high or low on these games because Michigan hasn't been in running for a Big Ten championship. But a Big Ten championship is still a banner you hang in your arena, and you have to fight for it. So I mean, this is my opinion. This next game, it's basically win or go home for you. Yeah, you still have a chance in March. But if you don't win the Big Ten championship and you make a deep run in March, it'll kind of feel like losing the MSU-OSU game and then winning the national championship. OSU fans, you feel great, but it won't feel completely satisfying if you're not able to go out and get the job done here. So again, these next few games are absolutely huge, absolutely important. And you need to come out and you really need to show off your A game. You can't play games like you were today where you're just you show out and there's a lack of effort and you're completely tired. So with that being said, guys, make sure if you see any MSU fans try to talk trash on Twitter, yeah, we know that potentially their team is, especially after last game, they probably have a better team. But make sure to talk trash back, okay? Make sure to talk trash back. Make sure to defend our team, and make sure to always go blue. Thanks, guys. I'll catch you next time. Peace.